Yo, what is going on everyone? It is Jacob Fett, and today I'm back with a brand new What If video. In today's video, we are jumping into the timeline of what if Count Dooku and General Grievous had both died during the opening scenes of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. If you do enjoy these fanfictions, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. But with that being said, let's jump right into today's story. Our story begins during the opening scenes from Revenge of the Sith. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Chancellor Palpatine have been captured by General Grievous after Anakin had beheaded Dooku just moments earlier. We pick up right as Grievous is about to break the window with the Magna Guard staff. Anakin leaps in and slices through the middle of the staff before Grievous can break the window. Obi-Wan moves in from the other side as Grievous uses the last working half of the electric staff to block Kenobi's strike. Then, appearing out of Grievous's blind spot like lightning, Anakin comes jumping in, slicing his lightsaber through Grievous's cyborg neck, his head clanking onto the metal floors of the bridge. The droids left in the room, although robotic and emotionless, seem to be taken back seeing the Separatist general's head taken off right in front of them. The remaining droids and Separatist crew scrambled out of the room in fear as the two Jedi quickly escorted the Chancellor to the escape pods aboard the capital ship, which is important to note are still there in this timeline, because Grievous did not live long enough to fire all of them off before trying to make his escape to Utapau like he did originally. Anakin boards the first escape pod he sees as R2 follows close behind, only to be cut off by the Chancellor, who loads into the escape pod with the young Skywalker. R2 quickly reverses, turning and following Obi-Wan into the next closest escape pod, as they quickly launch all of the remaining pods out of the capital ship into the war-filled skies above Coruscant. Navigating through the battle and eventually making it into Coruscant's atmosphere, the two Jedi make contact, relaying the Chancellor's safety back to the Senate and Jedi Council, as they are then escorted to a landing bay by a squadron of clone pilots. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Chancellor Palpatine, and R2 all exit the escape pods after landing and are met by Mace Windu and a few other Jedi, who are also accompanied by a large group of political senators. The senators immediately herd over to the side of Palpatine unsurprisingly, as Mace and the other Jedi greet Anakin and Obi-Wan, thanking them both for successfully rescuing the Chancellor and killing both Dooku and Grievous, to which Obi-Wan gives all the praise to Anakin, stating him as the main reason in which they're all alive right now. As the mixed herd of senators, Jedi, and droids began to move, making their way back into the building, Anakin falls back behind just like originally in the movie to meet with Padme. Padme, who is so relieved to see Anakin alive and well after hearing all types of rumors surrounding his mission, would still reveal that she is pregnant to Anakin just as before. The following day, we find ourselves at the Jedi Council chambers in the midst of a meeting. The Council had decided that after taking out both Dooku and Grievous, in effort of his heroics, Anakin would be granted to the rank of Master. Anakin is surprised but delighted at the news, thanking the Council for granting him to the rank of Master and instilling their trust into him. The Jedi continue to discuss further matters that Palpatine needs to immediately return his emergency powers, with the war effectively being over after the death of Grievous. The Separatist command structure was beginning to crumble as the main members of the Separatist committee have gone missing after Grievous's demise, with no information on any of their whereabouts. As the council meeting had finished, before everyone had cleared out, each Jedi took a moment to congratulate Anakin on his new position within the Order. Later that night, we find Anakin sleeping in his room alongside Padme. Anakin jolts awake out of his sleep as he gets up, taking a moment to find himself back in the room. The premonition and nightmares of Padme's childbirth haven't gotten any better, and over the last week, they've only grown more intense and more real than ever before. The next morning, Anakin makes his way to the Jedi Temple. Anakin enters the Jedi Archives where he is greeted by Jocasta Nu. "Good morning, Master Skywalker. Is there anything I can help you find today?" she says with a warm smile. "No thank you, Master Nu." Anakin replies back before walking past her, continuing to his destination, the restricted section of the Jedi Archives, only accessible to specific masters within the Order. Anakin locates the entrance along the outer edge of the wall, and with his newfound position, enters the vault for the first time. Upon entering the dimly lit room, Anakin is surrounded by ancient Sith relics and objects spanning over hundreds, if not thousands of years. Anakin carefully looks around, inspecting all of the different dark side objects around the vault. Anakin began reading into some of the information regarding the dark side of the Force, but after reading extensively into it for hours on end, Anakin's one question was still left unanswered, and after all this time, the answer Anakin believed to finally be found was never there to begin with. Finally leaving the archives, Anakin heads over to the Senate building, meeting up with the other members of the Jedi Council just in time as Palpatine's speech was getting underway. Palpatine was finally addressing the Senate after the death of General Grievous. Palpatine would demand the Separatist army is still a threat to the Republic, with the main core of the committee still being out there at large. Palpatine is trying anything he can to keep the continuation of his emergency powers intact, but even with Palpatine's eloquent speaking skills, the Senate wasn't as convinced as he liked, and neither were the Jedi. Senators from worlds all across the galaxy were all calling out, some in unison, some in disapproval, but everyone in the Senate was trying to have their voice heard. Palpatine knew he was beginning to run out of time quickly. He knew he was slowly losing the Senate with each passing moment. On an unknown planet located in the Outer Rim, we find the Viceroy of the Trade Federation, Nute Gunray, hiding away with a platoon of about a few thousand battle droids at his helm, waiting rather impatiently for further orders. Sidious's hologram appears before Nute Gunray as the Viceroy immediately starts to express his frustration and anger with Sidious having promised an end to the war and given no resolution to him or any of the other Separatist Council after the destruction of Grievous.
The war will soon be over. Hold your position, Viceroy,
Sidious says menacingly with a tone of threat in his voice. Sidious would then force Nute Gunray to give up the locations of the last members of the Separatist Council, who are all scattered across different parts of the galaxy. Still being kept in line by Sidious, he has no choice but to give up the names without question, as Sidious's hologram fades away. The following day at the Jedi Temple, we find Anakin and Obi-Wan standing in the grand halls, sunlight beaming through the windows reflecting off of the chrome of their lightsaber hilts. A group of younglings headed to their daily training are walking past the two Jedi Masters. Anakin and Obi-Wan greet the group of young Jedi, offering a word of advice for the day. The younglings all look up, smiling and thanking the two Jedi Masters for their time. As they are beginning to walk away, the wholesome moment is suddenly interrupted by their Jedi comlinks simultaneously starting to go off. Anakin and Obi-Wan give each other a quick glance before excusing themselves and immediately heading to the council chambers. When the two arrived at the chamber, they take their seats as we come to learn the Republic had just inquired new intel on the whereabouts to the remaining Separatist Committee members. After acquiring this critical info, the Jedi are complacent in their stance on the war and would agree to help the Republic troops capture and arrest the last remaining legs of the Separatist Corps. Realistically, with this info, the war has practically been won in the eyes of the Jedi and Republic. The Jedi Council decides to send one Jedi with 6 squadrons of clone troopers per Separatist member. Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Agent Kolar, and Saesee Tiin were some of the most notable names that would be sent off of Coruscant to assist with the captures. Yoda and Anakin would be assigned as the two masters to stay behind on Coruscant in case anything were to arise, because at this point, although beginning to fall apart, the war was still active. The Jedi who were leaving quickly group up with their squadrons of clones and take off, headed to their respective planets. While the Jedi and Republic troops were traveling through hyperspace, Anakin and Yoda were in the Jedi Temple having a one-on-one talk. Anakin would bring up his fears about death, speaking in vague terms, making sure not to be overly specific. Yoda would respond to Anakin by telling him to only focus on each current moment, as any worries of the future only enhanced the reality for it to become true. Although not what Anakin wanted to hear, it was needed and did make him feel a little more reassured, as in this timeline, Anakin's faith and trust in the Jedi is stronger than it was originally.
Trust the Force, young Skywalker.
A few more hours had passed by and the Republic was now in full swing taking out the remaining battle droids guarding the Separatist Committee scattered across the various planets. Back on Coruscant, the Chancellor had just requested Anakin's presence in his office for an update on the Jedi and Republic's current status. Anakin makes his way to Palpatine's office as he walks in to find Palpatine at his desk.
We have engaged the remaining holdouts, Chancellor. This war is almost over.
Anakin says with relief in his voice. The rest of the scene would play out very similar to the original in Revenge of the Sith, where Palpatine is setting in motion his final play to seduce Anakin to the dark side. Palpatine informs Anakin that he knows what he's been searching for in the restricted archives, and states that even at the highest ranks of the Jedi, they don't have the answer he needs, the answer to save Padme. Palpatine would give a brief explanation of Darth Plagueis and the influence of midichlorians to save one from death. Anakin is taken back by Palpatine's razor-sharp words, wondering how he even had such knowledge. Anakin is angered and overall confused in the moment. Palpatine had really laid it all out there to Anakin in hopes of finally luring in his long-anticipated new apprentice. Anakin is still hesitant, emotions clouded as he tells Palpatine that he must report and turn him over to the Jedi. Anakin is about to leave the room as he suddenly halts for a moment, looking back to Palpatine, making eye contact one last time, before turning his back and exiting the room. Meanwhile, Mace and his squadron of clones had just captured the last member of the Separatist Committee. Mace immediately contacts Yoda over a hologram transmission to inform him that the Jedi will be returning to Coruscant shortly, with the members to stand trial under the Republic.
Good news this is,
Yoda says with a small hint of relief in his voice, as the moment is abruptly interrupted by Anakin entering the room.
Master, I must speak with you.
Anakin would proceed to tell Yoda how Palpatine is the Sith Lord they had been searching for the entire time, just like how he had told Mace originally, but in this timeline, Yoda wouldn't tell Anakin to wait behind at the Jedi Temple as Mace did. Yoda, Anakin, Kit Fisto, and Plo Koon would all head over to Palpatine's office, declaring Palpatine under arrest. The duel would still go down in Palpatine's office as the 4 Jedi would all be taking on the Sith Lord at once. Although very skilled and masterful Jedi, Plo Koon and Kit Fisto would be taken out and killed by Sidious only a few moments into the fight, leaving just Yoda and Anakin now to face Sidious. The powerful strikes of their lightsabers clashed through the room, with Sidious perfectly countering every strike from the 2 Master Jedi. Anakin goes in for a final strike, but this was the mistake Sidious had been waiting for. He's able to block Anakin's strike with one arm, while using Force Lightning to shock him with his other hand, sending Anakin flying back, slamming against the wall. Shaken and slow to get up, it was now just Yoda vs Sidious one-on-one in the Chancellor's quarters. Yoda would be able to hold his own against Palpatine, but just like we saw originally, he would only be able to hold it down for so long before Sidious would start to overpower the Jedi Master. Eventually, Sidious is able to slice through Yoda's lightsaber, destroying it on the spot as the Jedi was now an open target. Sidious reveals a sinister smile, feeling the dark side powering through him as he begins to fire Force Lightning at Yoda, backing him up to the edge of the window, using the Force to draw in and conceal Sidious's lightning. Yoda didn't know how much longer he could hold on. Sidious focused and intensified his lightning, trying to force the Jedi off of the ledge of the window. Just as hope seemed to be lost, coming back into the fight is Anakin, who leaps into the chaos while igniting his lightsaber, and in one continuous motion, he slices off Sidious's hands mid-lightning strike before swinging back upwards, slicing through Sidious's chest. The Sith Lord falls to the floor of his office, lifeless, as Anakin rushes over to immediately make sure Yoda was alright. Anakin and Yoda were both shaken up after the duel, rightfully so, but overall they were okay. Following in the aftermath of the duel, the next day the Senate would be informed of Palpatine's unexpected death. The Senate would be in chaos and would be looking to re-elect a new Chancellor or have someone who would fill in temporarily. Many members of the Senate would be questioning Palpatine's death by the hands of the Jedi, but at this point, the Jedi were the key reason the war was now over. And with that, the Jedi would step down in the role of the Republic, back to what they were before the war had began, keepers of the peace. Those that had doubted the Jedi before would mostly be resolved of their fears seeing the Jedi step down, showing they had zero indication of wanting power within the Republic. Remember, the Jedi only became the enemy in the eyes of the public after Palpatine had executed Order 66 and gave his speech about the Jedi trying to overthrow him, which never occurred in this timeline. With the Senate being in complete chaos, the Separatist Committee members who were arrested by the Jedi were being held in Republic prisons on Coruscant, as they would have to await their trials at a further time when the Senate was back in order. The last remaining battles of the Clone War would be played out across the galaxy, with the Republic ultimately coming out victorious, since the production and supply of battle droids had completely cut off after the head Separatist members fled following Grievous's early death. As for Anakin, he would end up addressing the Jedi Council about his relationship with Padme. The Council would honorably ask Anakin to resign from the Jedi Order, and although Anakin knew he did violate the Jedi Code, he didn't agree with the Council's decision to ask him to leave the Jedi completely. Some members of the Jedi Council would even speak up in support of Anakin, hinting at maybe even the possibility of discussing rule changes. Ultimately, Anakin respected the Council's wishes and realized that he had more to take care of now in life than just himself and the Jedi. As for Padme, she wouldn't die in childbirth in this timeline because Anakin didn't go down the dark path, which led her to dying originally. In the end, Anakin and Padme would both move to Naboo together to raise their twins on the lakeside, just as they had always dreamed of. Alright everyone, that is going to do it for today's video. If you did enjoy this one, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you have any other ideas for what if video scenarios, or if you want to see a part 2 for any of the other videos. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, may the Force be with you.